Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Gear.Club Unlimited for the Nintendo Switch. This title was sent to me by Microids so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. And I know I'm quite a bit late when it comes to this particular title. It has come out quite a while ago, but unfortunately this was the only time where I was able to actually get a code so that I could talk about it. And this was a game that I wanted to talk about regardless, because this is essentially a mobile port that made its way onto the Switch, but they've made quite a few modifications, and it is an interesting case to look at because, as we all know, the Switch has been receiving quite a few mobile ports into the platform, and not all of them have actually received the attention that, in my opinion, they should when you start moving stuff from the mobile market into an actual console store. So that's one of the reasons why I was very interested in checking out Gear.Club. And to be completely honest, out of all that I've seen in the game so far, I would say that this is, at the very least, a proper port of a mobile game, because instead of like doing the same thing that a lot of other companies are doing, which is basically grab the exact same game that they have on their mobile stores and just putting them on the eShop, it looks like Microids actually took the time to transform their game into a way that it justifies the asking price, because it is actually a fully featured game. There is no microtransaction nonsense going on. I've been looking quite a bit throughout the time that I've been playing this game. I've been looking for any of the mobile hooks, and to be completely honest, I didn't really find any. So let's get this started. First, I want to talk about the visuals. So the visuals are okay. I mean, we all know that visuals aren't really the Nintendo Switch's strong suit, but ultimately I still feel the game could look a bit better. But it's not the worst game I've ever seen, and it's perfectly serviceable as a racing game. The cars themselves look pretty good. My main complaints is in terms of the tracks and stuff. They're not as detailed as I would like, and after you've raced for a while, some of the tracks just kind of like blend together, and in certain zones it almost seems like you're racing the same track, except the layout of the track is somewhat different. So from a visual standpoint, it's not particularly impressive. And also, I would have liked to have had a little bit more camera options when it comes to when I'm actually racing, because I feel that the outside the car camera is too on top of the car itself. It's like zoomed in too much. Although once you pick up speed, it zooms out a little bit. But I still would have liked to get a camera that would go a little bit further back than the camera option that is presented. There's only two camera options, which is inside the car where you see the front portion of the car, or on the outside, and the camera's almost like glued to the back. I wish it was just a little bit more further, but it doesn't significantly hamper my experience with the game. In terms of the sound, it's also not impressive. One of the things that I definitely have to say about the sound is I wish there was a soundtrack. Now, there's two kinds of people that like to play racing games in terms of soundtrack, and that is the people that like to completely turn off the soundtrack instantly and just listen to the sound of the cars, and then there's the other people that like to listen to the sounds of the cars as well as have a soundtrack in the background. I'm the second kind. I would have liked to have a soundtrack to drive to. That's one of the things that I like in video games, and I really noticed the absence of a soundtrack. Now, there is music playing when you're in menus and when you're at the start of the race, and there's just like camera shots of the car. Speaking of which, those camera shots actually look pretty good, and you can actually floor the car while you're getting those camera shots before a race, so that stuff is kind of neat. Now, when it comes to content, which I do feel is one of the important things to talk about, because like I said, this is a game that came from the mobile market, so there's a lot of implications there, and people are probably wondering what kind of content can we expect. Now, mostly when it comes to racing games, I like to play single-player mode. This game does have multiplayer. I believe it's got up to 4-player co-op in the same console. You can use 2 Joy-Cons to play split screen. I'm assuming 4 Joy-Cons if you want to get 4-way split screen, which is not something that I've tested. And there's also some kind of asynchronous online multiplayer that you can do, because the game records people's performances on certain tracks, and then you can go there and you can race against those people, and you will also gain progression while you do those things. So in the aspect of content, in my opinion, there is a ton of content. There's several championships, which are divided by different car classes. You have different car classes, like you got A1, A2, then you got B1, and then you have rally tracks. And all of these will be different cars that you will be able to purchase. For the gameplay that you guys will be watching, you will notice that I have a big preference when it comes to cars towards American Muscle. It's just the kind of cars that I like, so you're going to be seeing those because I focus on upgrading my cars as much as possible so that I can then tackle on new challenges. But if you want to diversify yourself, you are going to have to grind a little bit of the in-game currency. And again, this is nothing that you can buy for real money. This is all stuff that you get from actually racing the races themselves. And when I say grind, I mean it's like, look, if you want to have a full garage with like 10 cars, you're going to have to do a lot of races before you can afford to have and upgrade all of those cars, because there are a ton of upgrades. Now, in terms of the race types, so far I've done 3 different race types. There's regular races, which will feature up to 8 cars, and there's collision between the cars and all that. You can ram people will ram you. Then there's rally races, which only feature 4 cars, so that it gives you a little bit more leeway to drift while you are doing rally races. And speaking of rally races, some of you guys might be wondering, so how is that handled? Do you have specific cars for rally races? And no, it's just like you can get any of the cars that you have, and then there's going to be a specific workstation on your garage that you can use to upgrade those cars specifically for rally events. So you can either have one car that you kind of like dedicate to rally, or you can upgrade all of your cars to be able to be used into rally tracks. But yeah, like I said, the rally races are only going to feature 4 cars because they want to give you a little bit more room to drift, and I think it would be a little bit claustrophobic if you had 8 cars in a rally race. So it gives it a little bit of a different vibe, which is kind of cool. And then there are races that I will be calling ghost races. These are essentially, I would almost say they're like time trials, because you got ghosts of other cars that are there just to see like how did the person who finished first did, the person who finished second, and you're going to try and beat all of those ghosts. So those are the 3 race types that I've done so far. I'm not sure if there's more than those or not. Most of the races themselves are actually like one-way races, so it's not like you're taking multiple laps. You're going through the track, you go all the way until the finish, and that's it. It's not even a lap. It's not even a track, really. It's like it's a circuit that you're doing, and when you get to the end, that's the end of the race. There's also tracks, though, and some of those tracks will have multiple laps. So there is quite a bit of diversity. But like I said, one of the problems is with the visual style and all that, some of the tracks, they just kind of get mixed together. The racing itself feels arcadey and pretty basic. You can change the difficulty of your opponents to have them be a little bit more challenging if you want to. There are several driving assists, so those people that are struggling to actually drive the vehicles and whatnot, you guys can add the little driving line. You can add assistance with brakes, assistance with steering, assistance with acceleration, or you can turn all that stuff off. If you turn all that stuff off, you're actually going to be rewarded further when you complete the race. And to be completely honest, like I said, the racing is pretty arcadey and basic, so it is easy for you to finish. I mean, at least to me, I felt it was mostly easy on a lot of the tracks to finish first and get most of the rewards. But again, I would still consider it to be fairly early on in this game, and I am getting to a couple of tracks that are more challenging, so it does scale up as you progress through the game. Something that I didn't notice is rubber banding, at least so far. It's like if you can get a significant lead on your opponents in the races where I got significant leads, I never felt like the opponents were catching up to me like super fast. So like if I had a significant lead, I could make tons of mistakes before the opponents actually got to me, which is pretty cool. However, I do have to say I wish there was a sensitivity setting for turning, and this is not really a fault of the game itself. It is because the analog sticks and Joy-Cons, they have a bit of a smaller range of motion than typical controllers, and therefore it's kind of like you move the stick a little bit to the right, and your car just, it's almost like you're fully turning right. And again, this is not the fault of the game. I kind of feel that a lot of the games on the Switch are like this. It's like a little bit of a tap in the analog stick, and it's like you go all the way in the direction that you're moving the stick. But if there was a sensitivity, I kind of feel like that could help out a little bit there, and that could have been something that they could have done to improve it a little bit. Now, one of the things about these races that I have to mention is that I feel they felt somewhat short What do I mean by this? I mean, like, my average race would last about, I don't know, 90 seconds, 2 minutes tops, 3 minutes for some of the longer ones. Then later down the line, when you start getting some of them that actually have laps and whatnot, they last a little bit longer. But most races end pretty fast, a lot faster than what I would expect from a racing game. And I guess this is one of those things that kind of comes from the mobile nature of the game, which is this is a game that was first made for mobile, and therefore I kind of feel like, you know, in mobile, having a faster race is a better thing because you can just like quickly grab your phone, have a little bit of a fast race, boom, you're done. But when you're playing on a Switch, and say for instance, if you're playing on the go and you're playing in handheld mode or something, that's a good thing. You get yourself a fast race, boom, done. The problem is when you're playing at home, it kind of feels short sometimes. At least to me, it feels a little bit short. I wish some of the races would prolong themselves a little bit longer when I'm playing in dock mode, because it would feel more like a racer, you know? But at the same time, it's like it depends on how often do you play your Switch while docked and how often you play your Switch while undocked. Because my opinion on how this game works is like it's better if you're playing it on the go. If you're playing it on the go, it's going to feel better because it's going to be fast races. You're going to get a lot of stuff done. But if you're playing home and you're relaxing and all that stuff, it feels a little bit unsatisfying. Or maybe that's just me. That's the way that I personally feel. But again, the good thing about this is that you're constantly unlocking new things while you're playing the game. You're constantly unlocking new zones, new races, new upgrades, new championships, new things that you're constantly unlocking. So your basic loop while you're playing this game is you're going to be racing, you're going to make some money, then you're going to level up, and then you're going to unlock more races and more upgrades. And with the upgrades, is the way that you do upgrades in this game is actually really interesting. Because essentially you get a garage and you get to customize how that garage works. So you're going to have several workshops inside of that garage to upgrade many aspects of how your vehicle operates, from the tires to the brakes to the aerodynamics to the engine and a bunch of other stuff. And the thing that is cool about that garage is all the customization options, because you get to pick where you put each of these different workshops. You get to then put down displays for your cars. You get to put down coffee machines, exercise bikes, as well as stuff for cosmetic upgrades for your cars, which, by the way, all the cosmetic stuff is accessible in-game. As a matter of fact, everything is accessible in-game. Like I've echoed previously, there are no microtransactions in the game. And in a way, this garage, which at first I thought, you know, I'm not sure how this whole garage customization thing is going to be. And I had read about how some people were complaining about how, oh, it's such a hassle to deal with it. I actually thought it gave me a sense of ownership. You know, because a lot of times when you get a garage in game, it's just a place to put your cars and everything is preset. Whereas being able to actually align things in a way that would make sense, which you don't have to. The layout of your garage does not have to be a logical one, but I personally like doing that kind of stuff. And then you can also change the skin of your garage. It can be like a 50s diner, or it can be a studio design thing. There's basically a lot of options of all the things that you can put in that garage. And as you level up and you unlock new things, you get to unlock new workshops to change your cars even further, and you get to unlock more cosmetic options. Just like, it's constantly this loop that is feeding and rewarding you. It's basically you race, you get some money, you get to upgrade your car some more, you get some new stuff to put on your garage, and you get to put your cars on display and maybe some new cosmetic things. And you're constantly being handed things for you to modify your car and to kind of augment your experience beyond just the racing part of it. As a matter of fact, I would almost say it's 50-50. There's 50% of the whole racing and getting better at the racing game. And then there's the other part, which is actually customizing your car and customizing your garage. And it is satisfying. I kind of feel that ultimately the racing in the game could be a little bit better. And I wish that the upgrade systems were also somewhat better. Because like the thing about the upgrades is that there's no downside to these upgrades. So there's usually, again, two types of upgrades in car games. One of those types is like you actually customize the car, so you want to make the car go faster, then maybe the car brakes a little bit worse. You know, there's usually downsides to some upgrades in some car games. And then there's the other ones where it's just like straight up, you put in a part and that part is just straight up better than the other part. This one is the latter. So basically, the better upgrades you put in your car, the better the car is always going to get. So it's only a matter of racing enough to make enough money to upgrade your car, and then you want to upgrade everything to the highest level possible. So I prefer the ones that come with downsides. Again, that's personal preference, but ultimately, it's like it's a game that's got a ton of progression systems that you can really just spend a lot of time improving your cars and racing, and then improving the stuff some more and customizing your garage and doing all of this other stuff. And it is satisfying, but you can tell that it is a mobile game. So it doesn't completely depart itself from the mobile and become like a full-fledged racer like you'd expect, but it is an interesting hybrid, so to speak. Ultimately, I think it's going to depend whether or not you're going to enjoy this game. It's going to depend very much on whether or not you like the gameplay that you've been seeing throughout this video. But at the same time, this game is taking a place in the Nintendo Switch that there isn't really any competition, as far as I can say. Sure, there are other racers, like you got some really good racers in the form of Mario Kart and Fast RMX, but those are arcadey racers, and it's a different type of thing. You don't have a realistic car game with actual brands like, you know, Dodge and BMW and Mercedes and Ferraris. You don't have a game like that in the platform other than Gear.Club. And to some people who like and are passionate about cars, this game is going to fill that void. Overall, I've been enjoying my time with the game, and even though I wish there was more to the racing than what I've experienced so far, it's also important to mention that I've only unlocked some of the things. There's still tons and tons of things in the game that I haven't unlocked. There's whole classes of cars that I haven't gotten to play yet, and there's still quite a bit of content to be played. And this is with me being about, I don't know, 5-6 hours in or so. So there's still a ton of content for me to explore, and I'm hoping it gets better with some of the later tracks. But so far, I just kind of wish there was more to the racing than what I've experienced in the game. However, I do have to say, one of the things that I really do like is the garage, the customization aspect of it, and just everything around the garage portion of the game. I really enjoy it. I enjoy placing stuff down in that garage and organizing it in a way that I think it makes sense. And I'm considering changing some of the backgrounds, but that stuff costs a lot of in-game money, and I'm using most of my money to upgrade my cars. But, you know, it's a system that keeps me kind of coming back and enjoying a little bit more progression, enjoying some of the achievements, which then, you know, you do a long drift, they give you an achievement, they give you some more money so that you can invest more into upgrading the garage and the cars and all this other stuff. I think it's got a pretty cool, satisfying loop, but whether or not you're going to enjoy it is going to depend on whether or not you enjoyed the gameplay that you've watched in this video, which I know that for some people it's going to be good. For other people who are going to look at it, it's going to feel somewhat dated, and I understand. I completely agree. Some of the visuals in the game do look dated. Some of the racing mechanics maybe even look a little bit dated. But the gameplay loop itself still feels pretty satisfying, which is something I wasn't really expecting from a mobile port. So ultimately, what do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.